Hello, good evening and welcome to the Little Farmer's Farm with me, Guru Murphinda. Now today is Sunday the 24th of April 2021 and I'm taking the bold move of planting up my tomatoes tonight. So because we need to, we have to. We haven't got any room, and look at the size of them. They're getting pretty big. Now, we're still a couple of weeks away from our last frost date, but we're inside Tiki Tunnel 1, which is our fabulous trampoline framed polytunnel. So I'm hoping they're going to be okay. They're going to be going into these beds behind me, or 6 of them are, into the beds behind me, to clear up some space and to get them in the ground. But first of all, I've got to prepare those beds and replenish the fertilizer and other ground amendments that they're going to be relying on then for the growing season, at least to get them started off before the comfrey feed's added when the fruit sets. But to give health to the plants throughout the lifespan, really, there's certain amendments that we're going to be putting in to the soil. Okay, so that tomato bed is, when you work it out, it's a little under 6 cubic feet of growing medium. Now, it was used last year for growing tomatoes in, and it's had some onions in this year as well, which we took as green onions, small green onions, just so that I can clear the space out from there. It's partly a timing issue, really. These have come to the fore a little bit sooner than I wanted, really. I wanted them to last another 10 days or whatever. But it doesn't really matter. We can get them into the ground. I've got every faith, fingers crossed, that they'll be fine. But I've got to put these amendments into the soil now. Because there's 6 cubic feet, or round about 6 cubic feet, we're going to be basing it on a sort of a cup method when we mix the amendments up. The amendments are going to be mixed all into a... just bear with us a second. Right, these are our additions. We've got bloodfish and bone, Epsom salt, organic chicken pellets, chicken manure pellets, and ground organic free-range eggshells. Other varieties are available. Now, I've got me measurer. I'm going to be putting... This is about 100 mils or 100 grams that you get up to that level, the level. Picked up a label there as well. Yeah, that. Now into that 6 cubic feet, I'm going to be putting 6 of those. So it's one of those, 100 grams-ish. For every cubic foot. That's what we're going to be doing. It's part of our experiment. Because there's quite a lot of growing medium there that we need to replenish. It's barren at the minute. So, how many is that now? 4. Oh, covered myself in the snow. Difficult to do everything one-handed, you know. I don't know how Richard Kimball's nemesis went on. Name the TV show and movie, Richard Kimball. Who was he? So there's 6 of them. I'm only going to be putting 1 scoop of Epsom salts in, because it's quite powerful stuff, Epsom salts. And according to Digwell Greenfingers, you've got to be careful with it. You don't need to put too much of that in. So there's only going to be 1 cup of that going into the mix. There's going to be 3 scoops of that, and there's going to be 2 scoops of that. In fact, there's going to be 3. I'm going to put 3 in of the eggshells for the calcium. It helps. They work together, these, but you've got to be careful, as Steve says, Digwell Greenfingers says, that you don't overdo it with the Epsom salts, because it can be counterproductive. I'm going to be using the Epsoms more of a foliar feed if I need to through the growing season, but I am going to be putting some in. I'm going to be putting about a third of that bag into here. 3 of those and 3 of those. Alright, so it's had the Epsom in, the Epsom salt. Going to be mixing the eggshells in. You see the bone meal that's in the blood, fish and bone, fish blood and bone, blood, fish and bone, whatever you want to call it. The bone meal is a form of calcium as well. Mix it all well together, this as well. It's all going to be very well mixed in and massaged in to that mix. I'm going to get it all the way evenly as best as I can throughout that growing medium. So all we've got left to do now is add in the chicken pellets. Okay, now Kath Flocks of Lee is probably going to tell me off for not adding any lime into the mix. But tomatoes, according to form, like a slightly acidic soil between 6 and 6.8 on the pH scale. And I think the addition of lime, although yeah, it's not a bad idea because again, there's calcium that comes from the lime too. But I think we've enough calcium in there with the bone meal and the eggshells. There's enough in there. And we don't want to turn that soil alkaline or too alkaline. We'll see how we get on. I mean, the addition of lime is supposed to as well sweeten the fruit, but the jury's out a little bit on that. And with these Super Sweet 100 and these Sun Gold that we're going to be planting in here, they don't require any additional sweetening. I think that'll be fine. But yeah, that's our mix, and it's going to be going into there. Okay, that probably weighs, I would say, just feeling that weighs about 1 kilogram, 2 or 3 pounds. And that's going to be added into that growing medium, that soil that we've got there, the compost, spent compost from last year. So I'm going to break up the surface first of all. Okay, so I've just roughened the surface up and got all the way down, turned it over, mixed it. And looking at that, it's already got enough perlite in the mix to work its magic. You know, to loosen the soil, allow for the free flow of the roots, you know. Water retention, moisture retention as well is assisted by perlite. There's our mix, our fertiliser mix, and all I'm going to do is, with a little scooper, try and get it evenly mixed through. So I'm going to do about half of the fertiliser at this stage, mix it all in, and then again with the other half and mix all that in. Very hungry plant, the tomato. Very hungry plant. So it needs this stuff. That'll soon disappear, you watch when I start mixing that in now. Yeah, swallowed it all up. That's ready. That's got plenty of nutrition in there and amendments for those plants. And of course, as we're going through the season, when the fruits are set, we're going to be putting the adding the comfrey feed in every 10 days or so. But what we need to do now is, because I'm getting 3 Sun Gold plants into there. So what we need to do is to get our bottomless pots. and our water bottles. Okay, these are the bottomless pots. Basically the Asda cut flower buckets that are trimmed down to about a depth of 8 inches rather than they standardly come around about 11 inches. So you take a few inches off the bottom and you've got these. They just get worked into the ground, as you can see there. And that's what we're going to be planting our tomato plants in. We're going to be running them off strings so that they can climb the strings. Another beauty of these trampoline frame polytunnels is you've got the springs, and you can attach your canes. It's an 8-foot cane. You can attach your canes to those, or whatever you've got handy, like this bar, and then you can run your strings up straight to the bars. And it's a brilliant little setup. Really handy. Right, so before we progress any further, the growing medium itself, the compost that I've created there, is very dry. So it's going to get about 40% saturation. I'm going to put 24 litres of water into that to moisten it all up, allow it time to soak down and get in there, because in these temperatures that we're in at the moment, it soon evaporates, the water, and I don't want to be taking it out of the bath that it's already in and starving it of the liquid. They're a very greedy and a quite thirsty plant, the tomato. They're not quite as thirsty as some people think. You've just got to give them a steady, relatively moist soil, and keep on top of that. So yeah, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be sort of wetting that thoroughly through. Okay, 24 litres of water there, 2 7-litre cans and a 10. Let's get it on. Okay, so the soil now is relatively saturated. It's had 24 litres of water in it, and it'll soak down. Now, our next step is to put in the watering device that's going to continue to keep that soil saturated. Okay, now some of you may have been watching this show over the last few months and wondered what these things are that I'm going to show you now and what the purpose is of them. You'll have caught a glimpse of them from time to time, the keen-eyed amongst you. These towers of bottles. These. And you may have been wondering what they're for. Well, now you're going to find out. Now these are just 2-litre pop bottles with holes drilled in them. 8mm hole, or 6mm, sorry, holes drilled in them. Now I'm going to put the lid on top of it, back on top of it, and bury that into the ground along here. Okay, so I've dug down there about 10 inches, made me hole. I'll just get my fist inside there now, shove it into the ground like this, pack the soil back around it, and then what happens is, when that's filled up with water, you can tend to get bumblebees and other friendly insects falling in and drowning. So to prevent that, we pop a little pot on like that, little 3-inch pot. Now that's the same size as the bottle and fits nicely and snugly, as you can see there on all of them. And what we're going to be doing there is we're going to be getting subterranean fluid. The water and the moisture will be contained below soil level. The surface evaporation then doesn't matter very much because the water is inside the ground underneath and it's unlikely to evaporate as fast. The little plants that we're going to be planting in the next, they will then send out their roots seeking the water moisture which is down below and continue to spread a good root system. That with the bone meal, the eggshells and all the rest of the nutrition that we put into the soil will stand those plants in really good stead and hopefully make them good healthy beasts. So yeah, the next step is to start getting the bloody plants in, isn't it? This is all prep. Okay, so this is going to be the home for the first of our sun gold tomatoes, and what I'm going to do is dig out a depression in the soil. Don't be depressed. Dig out the depression, and then if I can just borrow this pot for a sec, I'll put that in like that. That should be fine. And we're just going to make sure then that our little tomato plant is going to be fine and dandy in there. First of all, before I plant him, can you see these hairs at the bottom? Yeah? I'm going to be removing a couple of... I hope you can see that okay. There's like finer hairs at the bottom. All the way up the tomato plant, you'll get these hairs and they'll become roots. So you don't need to worry about planting below ground level with these, because they'll be fine and dandy. I'm going to plant up into those first... Oh, sorry, second set. That second set of leaves. So I'm going to take those out. Okay. So I've pinched out the first few leaves from the bottom, exposing another sort of 3.5 inches really. I'm going to plant it another couple of inches below the soil level that it's sat at the moment. But first, we need to bury this fella in the ground. This string is what the tomato plant's going to follow as it goes through its growing cycle. So I'm going to put that string in the ground first. Down there. And sort of bury him in. I think last year I did it with a you know, the camping peg. I think I put a camping peg on it. It doesn't really matter, we can tighten it up later. The tomato plant won't need that climber for another week or two. And by the time that week or two's passed, okay, the roots and the soil will have settled around that. Excuse me. Like I say, it's difficult one-handed, but I've not got me tripod tonight. It's very therapeutic, really, planting stuff. I enjoy it. So relatively firmly it's planted in, but you don't want to be too brutal with it, because you want them roots to spread their wings and fill that bucket really in the end with roots. Right, leave me to it, because I'm going to do it a lot quicker when I'm not holding this flaming camera, aren't I? But you get the gist. Okay. All the strings going up. What happens is, as these grow in the next couple of weeks, they'll be looking for something to support them. So you just weave the plant, if you like, around the stem and let it sort of spiral up around it. You train the plants to go up the string to the top. And as you can see, they're fairly taut. The weight of the plant will anchor it, and you just keep forcing soil around it, and it'll seat itself all right. And yeah, so those are water bottles as well to get the water in the ground. Bee friendly. Bee friendly. Right, there's the first three. tomorrow night, I mean, this was supposed to be a job for tomorrow night because we were at Gulliver's World today, but I managed to sneak an hour or two in. I've got all the rest of the oh, I can't show you that. I've got all the rest of these, the seeds that I'm going to be using for the Shed Wars thing. All of those have been sown now. I was going to show you the address again. In a perfect world, I wouldn't mind showing the address to everybody, but we ain't living in the perfect world, boys and girls. Alright, okie dokie. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. Give it a thumbs down if you don't. Keep growing with your heads down, and remember, we love you all. Alright, take care, boys and girls. Look after yourselves and each other. And if I don't see you through the week, I'll see you through the window. I've been good on Murphinda. You've been fantastic, fragrant and fabulous as always if you're a lady. You've been forthright, macho and virile if you're a gentleman. And if you've been something in between, then you've been something in between. Alright. Catch you next time, boys and girls. Have a great week. Ta-ra now. Show you how these work. That'll soak in, soak down, go out through the holes. Like that. And yeah, so when that's done and the water drains down, our friends the bees will be perfectly safe from drowning. Toasty!